The Crucible, Successes and Goals, Part 1 by David Hartful, Jr. The Crucible. The Crucible is the chronicle of Don Beck's 63 trips to South Africa between 1981 and 2002. He advised de Klerk, Mandela, and John C. Hall. Beck analyzed various conflicts in South Africa and used value memes to reframe the conflict. By using value memes instead of race, a person can better understand the conflict and determine solutions without the baggage of prejudice. Value analysis is also used to decide who should control resources and the distribution of jobs. Beck wanted to prevent South Africa from going down the same road as Zimbabwe. Instituting a national one-party system is a black version of apartheid. He wanted people to see that what they did not want, apartheid, was not the same as what they did want, a just and prosperous society. Once common threads are determined, general frameworks can be applied to conflicts all over the world. Beck sees South Africa as a microcosm of a growing world. South Africa's unique mix of races allows for the possibility of universal application. Beck sees South Africa as a crucible, a cauldron used to mix metals to form new alloys. The heat of struggle will liberate the impurities and create a new substance. The alloy of South Africa will be used to build a better future. Don Beck was born in Texas in 1937. He began teaching at North Texas University and discovered the work of Clare Graves from an article in a scholarly journal. Beck traveled to meet Graves in 1975 and worked closely with him until Graves died in 1986. North Texas University named him an honor professor in 1979 before he retired to work behind the scenes in South Africa. The book The Crucible details his journey. After Don Beck completed his initial work in South Africa, he won recognition by a joint resolution of the Texas House and Senate for his work. He continued working with various government organizations and businesses. Whole Foods, Texas Rangers, and the NFL were just a few of his clients. Beck now offers training courses and certifications in spiral dynamics. Beck is currently working in the Middle East to create solutions for an equitable future. Goals of studying South Africa using spiral dynamics. Evaluating various issues in the Republic of South Africa from a spiral dynamics perspective will allow for a more complete analysis. Traditionally, issues in RSA were assessed from the perspective of race. By moving the conversation from race to values, a person can see why people of various races unite. Removing race allows for people to be less emotional and more rational. It will also focus the discussion on where the nation needs to go instead of what it needs to avoid. The 7 destabilizers. Beck classifies issues in one of 7 ways. Gaps are inequalities in wealth, education, etc. Gulfs are cultural and language differences. Guilt is remorse for past wrongs. Grudges are feeling a need to be repaid for past discretions or indiscretions. Greed is the need to have more than necessary to the detriment of others. Games are playing politics, working for personal or party advantage instead of doing the best thing for South Africa. And glitches are wildcard issues like scandals. What is a new paradigm thinker? A paradigm is an outward expression of a value system. Paradigms affect the way a person interacts with the society regarding relationships, affiliations, and activism. Typically, there is one or a group of organizing principles. New paradigm thinkers use open systems instead of the idea there is an ideal final state. NPT understand one entity cannot solve any problems and look to integrate various people and organizations. By incorporating multiple groups, they take into account all the stakeholder requirements. The ability to see the big picture facilitates creating solutions that work for all involved. Everyone eats, not just literally, spiritually, financially, and existentially. New paradigm thinkers understand it is not possible to move people up or down the spiral. People must decide on their own and can change that they need to change their value system. Instead, NPT tried to move people out of unhealthy versions of their mean to healthy versions of their mean. They can see value in healthy versions of all means. The more significant national problems need to be solved at the integral level. Smaller subproblems that created the larger problem need to be solved at the level of consciousness that created them. So a new paradigm thinker wants to facilitate the healthiest consciousness at each level. Ten principles of a new South African order. 1. The diversity within South African value systems mosaic and evolutionary spiral have to be recognized and accommodated. 2. An interim process designed to address the long-term and short-term effects of apartheid and implemented by some Council of the Wise has to be initiated and empowered. 3. Any statement of rights, liberties, and opportunities should be joined by an affirmation of duties, responsibilities, and obligations. 4. Multiple political and economic systems, mixtures, equations, and formula need to be designed for different states of the evolutionary development and change. 5. The overall management of South Africa should reflect the thinking within the GT yellow systematic and HU turquoise globalist modes of thinking and problem resolution. 6. A multi-tiered governmental structure needs to be designed which would have the capacity to successfully manage different rings, binds, and ranges within the developmental spiral. 7. Change, transition, and transformation should be built into the design of social, educational, and political structures to facilitate the movement of people along the value system's trajectory. 8. The new political and economic order have to legitimize the healthy version of all value systems and their respective ethnic and cultural variations, so long as the interests of the spiral as a whole are protected and preserved. 9. The permanent plan will set in motion dynamic tensions, liberating flows, and interdependent mechanisms designed to spin naturally and spiral to greater complexity. 10. The integrity of the unique South African spiral is guaranteed and enhanced by the appropriate interactions of forces, resources, elements outside the country's borders. Direct quote from the Crucible. The 8 stabilizers. Don Beck advocates for a government that is focused on keeping peace and growing the economy. Both of these goals will be attainable with 8 stabilizers: nutrition, public safety, health, housing, education, ecology, employment, and population control are paramount to South Africa's future. The problem with apartheid. Removing apartheid will not lead to a more equitable South Africa. The problem with apartheid was it gave preferential treatment based on race, not merit. South Africa, moving away from a meritocracy, disenfranchised black people. It also created an Afrikaner culture of patronage and entitlement. Both blacks and whites should compete on a level playing field. Issues with redistribution of wealth. Redistribution of wealth along racial lines will disenfranchise one race and privilege another in the same way as apartheid. The new South Africa should facilitate the maturation of individual individuals lower on the spiral and give leadership positions to people higher on the spiral. Race is ultimately a social contract not validated by science. Therefore, merit should be a determining factor for jobs and university enrollment. Thank you for watching. For more information, join my WordPress site, blackleadershipanalysis.com. And to donate, use PayPal with the email address sdandrace@gmail.com. Sources: The Crucible by Don Beck and various spiral dynamics worksheets given to Black Leadership Analysis personally by Don Beck.